It is now time for Crime Time here on Court TV Live. Have some great guests joining us on the program tonight. With us, retired Los Angeles Police Department Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey is on the program. Sergeant Dorsey started with the LAPD in 1980. She worked in patrol as well as specialized units, including gang units. She's also the author of Black and Blue, the creation of a social advocate. And also on the program, retired lead use of force instructor David Wright. David served over 2 decades with the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police. As the lead use of force instructor, he developed and taught self-defense to both police and military personnel from across the world. He's also an expert in police defense tactics and an instructor in impact weapons and taser use. David Wright, Cheryl Dorsey, so great to have you both on the program. Thank you for your service and for lending us your expertise tonight.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
We're going to begin our crime time in Florida with some pretty shocking video of a dangerous situation where police and protesters are clashing. This is some body camera footage, and what's being said is drawing some scrutiny. Let's watch. All right, so the question we are asking tonight, and this is also part of our 13th juror question, is what do you make of this video we just looked at? I want to ask my expert guests. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, I want to go to you first. What do you make of this video? What do you see?
Well, listen, I see officers celebrating an opportunity to use force, and there's a contingency of police officers who really enjoy this. They live for this. Normally, when there's a use of force, there's paperwork. You have to account for strikes and blows and bullets. But in this case, it's a free-for-all. It looks as if they're watching some kind of a video game and just having a good time.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Sergeant Cheryl, I appreciate that. David, tell me, what do you see? What do you see when you watch this video?
Well, the word that comes to mind is unfortunate. You have the officers in a high-stress situation using force, and then at the end, like the sergeant said, kind of celebrating. I would not want to overreact, but I don't want to underreact, and understand the officers are under stress, but at the same time, you don't want to see them celebrating or enjoying their use of force. So I would use the word unfortunate to describe this incident.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Dave. I can't imagine being in that situation. Talk to us. I mean, you both have served for a number of years, put your lives on the line day in and day out. What is that like for those officers? I mean, I think it's very easy for anyone to look at the video and, put forth some criticism about what was said and when, but to me, this just looks like such a terrifying situation, whether you're armed and gear as a police officer or not. Sergeant Cheryl, talk to me about what you experience when you're an officer in that kind of a situation, please.
Well, you know, there's a certain term that we use, and it's called black humor or gallows humor. And because of some of the things that we deal with, there are certain officers who may seem to be enjoying it in the moment, but it could be a coping mechanism. And so I can't get in the head of the officers, but the optics are clearly bad. And when you are engaged and exposed to the kinds of things that patrol officers are engaged in and day out, call to call, stress to stress situation, there are times when an officer may act in a way that's inappropriate. Is that a mistake of the heart or a mistake of the mind? I don't know.
Who knows? You know, great thoughts from both of you. Thank you both so much. We have to step aside to take a break. When we come back, we're going to look at some more crime time video. The next case, it's shocking, disturbing. We want to have our experts weigh in. Don't go anywhere. Court TV Live continues right after this. Welcome back to Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. I'm Julie Grant. We are in our crime time portion of the show with tremendous guests with us, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey and use of force expert David Wright, both here to analyze our next story. Shocking story, and it's also a follow-up for you. You might remember this on Crime Time. Brought it to you a few weeks ago. The remains of a missing man found in Santa Barbara, California. This young man's name is Trayvon Perry. This has now become a homicide case, and lots of details are still unknown. Let's watch.
Missing without a trace for more than 3 months. Trayvon Perry was last seen leaving a friend's house in Paso Robles March 15th.
And we quickly determined that Mr. Perry's disappearance occurred under suspicious circumstances.
Upwards of 20 investigators with Paso Robles PD and the DA's office have been working the case.
We have interviewed dozens of people through the course of the investigation and written dozens of search warrants.
Perry's friends and family have taken to social media sharing their memories of him and pleading for anyone with information to come forward. We talked with his mom and sister in May.
This is any family's scariest nightmare.
On June 18th, police say an extensive search of a house was conducted in the city of Riverside.
At that home, they recovered the remains of a human body that we believe are Trayvon's.
An autopsy was done.
It has been ruled a homicide.
DNA testing is pending.
We're saddened that we weren't able to bring Trayvon home alive and well, like we had all hoped.
While details are limited to avoid compromising the investigation, police say they have suspects.
We anticipate some arrests in the near future.
And neither Chief Lewis and his team or my office will get any rest until we bring in justice for Trayvon Perry.
The search for this missing man did not end the way everyone had hoped. So what is next? What is next in terms of steps in this investigation and hopefully catching whomever is responsible? David Wright, want to go to you first for your thoughts, please.
The police they're playing this close to the vest, so they're not releasing a whole lot of information. I'd want to know what the cause of death is and what the autopsy reveals. Oftentimes, the victims of these violent crimes, these murders, they're still speaking to us even after their death in the terms of the autopsy. What's the DNA say? What's the trace evidence? And my guess is, just on the interviews with the police agency, that they're close to an arrest, so they must have a lot of information based on the interviews that they've done already, but that autopsy is probably pretty revealing in terms of evidentiary value.
David, thank you. Agreed. You know, I always like to say law enforcement are always a few steps ahead of what they let the public know, and for good reason. Sergeant Dorsey, tell me if I'm right on that, and also tell me what you would do if you were supervising those being charged with this investigation.
Absolutely. So they're connecting the dots right now, and they're going to try to figure out what the connection is from Santa Barbara to Riverside. That's a significant difference. How did his body wind up, 2 hours away from the place that he came missing? We also know that he was a witness in a pending murder trial. And so I imagine that they're going to circle back and take a look at the statements of everyone that they've already talked to. And because they don't want to jeopardize the case, there's so much more that they know that they won't share with us, and we'll find out in due time.
Gotcha. Sergeant Dorsey, thank you. Let's move on to our next story now. This one comes from Michigan, and just want to give a warning. If there are any kiddos in the room, take the kiddos on out for this story. What you're going to see is graphic. A woman pulls a gun on a mother and her daughter. Let's watch.
She got the gun on me. Get away. She got the gun on me. He about to hit me with the car. Call him. I'm telling. Get the license plate. Get the license plate. Get the license plate now. Because you were never about to hit me with the damn car. About to hit me with the car? Both of y'all put guns down on me, okay? Call Richard back up to the police. Call Richard back up here now. I got it. Jump behind no, I didn't jump behind your car. I was walking. Your car was within me. Do you see that? Do you see that? They both pointed that gun on me. He was trying to hit me with the car when I was going back. You see that? And then when I hit his car, he wanted to jump out the car and put a gun on me. That is crazy. Trump making it comfortable. Call the police. No, don't go anywhere. Call the police. 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 You about to hit me with the car. They hit me and then pull a gun on me. Move out the way. Yeah, I got it.
Oh my gosh. So how fast can law enforcement intervene in a situation like this is what we want to know tonight. Sergeant Dorsey, give me your take on this, please.
Well, that was a lot. And so I'm glad that they allowed that person to drive away, because you never know what someone might do. You don't know what her mindset is, how well trained she is, how versed she is in the handling of that particular weapon. And so I think they did the right thing in identifying her, getting her license plate number, and allowing her to leave. I don't know what precipitated that particular engagement, but officers probably were called but didn't have an opportunity to respond before the lady with the gun left the scene.
Such great points, Sergeant. Thank you. David Wright, you train folks in the use of weapons. What do you see looking at this, looking at how she was holding that firearm? Give us your opinion, please.
To begin with, this, based on her body language, she is trained with a firearm. Her fingers out of the trigger. She's in a low ready position. She actually has a very solid shooting platform. So that's one area, and it looks like she has training. The next question I would have is, does she have legal training on when she is justified in the use of a firearm? You know, we as citizens, we have the right to defend ourselves from deadly force with deadly force, right? But in a nutshell, there's a couple of elements of deadly force that are quickly trained. The first one is ability. Does that person have the ability to cause death to you? She has the gun out. So the first question, does the person that she has the gun pointed at, does that person have the ability to cause death or serious bodily injury to her? Does that person have the opportunity to do so? In other words, if they have a knife, they have the ability. They have the opportunity if they're within range. And then what kind of protracted step are they taking? Are they putting that person with that gun in imminent fear? And at that point, that person then would make the decision to shoot or don't shoot. But even brandishing that weapon, they better have a lawful reason to brandish that weapon. So that's the big question. And, the officers investigating this need to do due diligence to figure that question out. Absolutely.
Excellent points. And it's my understanding she has been charged with felony assault. So it doesn't surprise you there, does that? Quick final thoughts there, David?
No surprise. When I look at the elements of deadly force, I'm just going off of what I see in front of me. But if they do not appear to be there, I see it. Like I said, I see somebody that's trained in a firearm, but I don't see somebody that's most likely trained in the legalese behind the use of a firearm.
Yes, appreciate that. David Wright, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, wonderful having your expertise. Thank you so much for being on the Crime Time program tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.